This is Mrs. Wainwright's Math Class, Chapter 1, Lesson 1A, reading whole numbers, place value, and periods. Today's learning targets. By the end of today's lesson, you should confidently be able to say, I can correctly read whole numbers through the hundred billions, I can identify the periods, and I can name the place value columns through the hundred billions. Let's take a look at this number on the top right-hand side in red, 3, 2, 1. If you saw that number on the paper, like you see it on the screen here, how would you properly read that number? We learned back in elementary school that you would read that number 321. You also learned back in elementary school the place value column for each of these digits. So we focus on the 1. We know that that digit is in the ones place. So I'll label it 1 for the ones place. Let's focus in on the 2. What place is the 2 in? We know that the 2 is in the tens place value column. What about the 3? What place is the 3 in? The 3 is in the hundredths place value column. So each of you, if you saw this number 321, you should be able to read it, 321, and tell the proper place value columns. The 1 is in the ones place, the 2 is in the tens column, and the 3 is in the hundredths column. What you may or may not remember is that every 3 digits counts as what's called a period. So these 3 digits in the number 321 are in a period. How do we know the name of the period? It's the name of the column all the way on the right-hand side. So the digit on the right-hand side is the 1. I know that's in the ones column. Therefore, 321 are the 3 digits that are in the ones period. A very, very important thing to note when reading numbers is that 1, think about it. If I say I have 1 Hershey bar, how many do I have? 1. I don't have more than 1. I don't have less than 1. I have 1. So there's only one ones place value column. I'm going to highlight that column right here. Therefore, although 321 is in the ones period, the only one that we ever talk about or actually say is the highlighted column right there, that 1. The name of the period is silent. You will find, if you ask a lot of people, that they don't even know that 321 is in the ones period. It's called the ones period, but it's silent because there's only one 1, and that's the place value column that we highlighted. This will make a little bit more sense in a few minutes. Let's say that I decide to add another digit in front of this number. So I'm going to add the number 4. What do we know? What's missing in this number? I now have 4, 3, 2, 1. I would read it 4,321. Well, hopefully we all know that after every 3 digits, when we work from right to left, we need to have a comma. So the comma would go right in there, 4,321. And since I know that every period has 3 digits, like the ones period here has 321, 321, I'm going to add 2 more digits into this new period. I'll add a 5, and in front of that I'll add a 6. So these 3 digits are in the next period, which is called the thousands period. Let's label it. This is the thousands period, and between each separate period, or each group of 3 digits, we add our comma. So 654 is in the thousands period. How do we label these place value columns? Well, let's take a look. If I look back at my red numbers, 321, the digit all the way on the right-hand side is in the ones place value column. That's the digit that names the period group. Notice that that 1 is in the ones column, and down on the bottom that is in the ones period. So let's move over and look at our blue numbers, 654. That last digit is the thousands column. As we see on the bottom, that name is the thousand period. So that 4 will be in the thousands column of the place value chart. and I label it 1000. How do I know the name of the place value column that the blue 5 is in? Well, if I go back and look at my red numbers, I know that my 1 is in the ones column because it's the same name as the period. My 2 is in the tens column. It's going to work in the same order for every single period. So your first digit all the way on the right-hand side is in the column that's the same name as the period. The digit to the left of that, so in this case the 2 is in the tens period, or we move over to the blue 5, we're going to see that the 5 is in the 10,000s period. Because the period is the 1,000, so it's the 10,000. Just like the 2 is in the tens period, the 5 is the second number they're in, that's going to be in the 10,000s period. Okay, let's move over to the 6. Well, that's my third number to the left in a period. If I look at my red numbers, my third number to the left, I have 1, 2, 3. 3 is in the hundredths column. So 6 is my third number to the left that will also be in the hundredths column. So I'm going to write 100. It's in the hundredths column. The period name is 1000. So 6 is in the hundred thousands column. Now why, for my red numbers, did I just write 1, 10, 100? But for my blue numbers, I wrote 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. Well, remember, look at that highlighted 1. There's only one 1. That's easy to remember because there's only one 1. There isn't two 1s, there's only one 1. So if there's only one 1, I only say that word one time, and that's for the highlighted 1s column. But every other period we get to, we will say the name of the period. Sounds a little bit confusing, but keep going with me. Let's take a look and see how it works. Okay, I'm going to add another digit in front of the number, and that will be a 7. I know that after every 3 digits I need a comma. So if I work from right to left, I say 1, 2, 3, comma, 4, 5, 6, comma, 7. Okay, this is a new group of 3. In this case it's 1, but it could be up to 3. So this is going to be a new period. Let me add 2 more digits in to complete my period. I'll add an 8 and a 9. So my 321 is in the ones period. My 654 in blue is in the thousands period. My 987 in purple is in the millions period. And again, after each period, whether it's digit form as on top or word form as on bottom, we need to have a comma. So let's label the specific columns. Let's take a look at that 7. Well, again, the number all the way on the right hand side in the place value chart, that name is the name of the period. So that 7 is in the millions period, so that is going to be 7 million. I move over to the 8. After the period comes the 10 of the period. In the 5 it was 10,000. For the 8 we're in the millions period, so it will be the 10 millions column. I move over to the 9. That's, if I looked at the red grouping, that's 100, so this would be the 100 millions because it's in the millions period. So notice the pattern. It goes by the name of the period, the tens of the period, the hundreds of the period. Let's look at the 1. It's the ones, tens, hundreds. Now we're at the blue, the thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s. We're at the purple, the millions, 10 millions, 100 millions. Let's go ahead and add another digit in. I'm going to add a 2. It's going to be a new period because it's a new group of 3, so it needs to have that comma. Let's add 2 more digits into that period, and this would be called the billions period. Of course, it needs a comma, whether it's digit or words. So this green 2 right here, that's the first, or all the way on the right-hand side, that goes by the name of the period. So this will be the billions column. After the name comes the 10 of the name, so the 4 is in the 10 billions column. And the 7 is in the 100 billions column. So really, if we take the time and we memorize the first ones back like we learned in elementary school, this is the ones period, and from right to left it goes ones, tens, hundreds. And from there, if we memorize the names of all the periods from right to left, ones, thousands, millions, billions, we can correctly name each and every column. So we have the ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, millions, 10 millions, 100 millions, billions, 10 billions, 100 billions. As you're memorizing this for your tests, please make sure to memorize, once again, the ones period in each of the names, as well as memorizing the names of your periods from right to left. That will help you. So let's take a look and see how this helps us down the line. Let's see how we could properly read this number right here on top. Okay, so we're going to break this number down. So one section at a time. If I just had this part of the number 321, I would read that as 321. Plain and simple. Likewise, if I had just had this number right here, how would I read that number? 654. If the only number you saw on the paper was 654, you would say 654. So now, let's get rid of this white, and let's see how we read this number. We're going to say 654. When we get to this comma, right there, it tells us to say the name of the period. So 654,321. I would read this number 654,321. Sorry about that. What if I just had 987 written down? 987. I would read that 987. And in this case, I read it the same way. 987, comma tells me to say the name of the period, which is million. So I'm going to say 987,654,321. So far we have 987,654,321. And again, period by period, you do read the 3 digits as if you would if there was only 3 digits on the page. So if the 3 digits on the page were 742, I would say 742. Now when I get to the comma, it tells me the name of the period. So this would be 742 billion. Now we add in 987,654,321. So I read this number 742,987,654,321. Done. Once again, each 3 digits, I read it just as they are if they were the only digits on the page. When I get to the comma, I say the name of the period. When I'm at my very last number, I don't say the name of the ones period because there's only one 1. Okay, so using this number and with the chart that we made, let's try and read another number. Here's your number. It's written in digits. When a number is written in digits, we call the number, or we say that it is written in standard form. So this number right here is written in standard form. Now we would like to read the number. So let's see how we tackle this. Well, reading the number, if you're reading it to me in class, is great because Mrs. Castellano and I can hear you say the number and we'll know you're saying it correctly. But how do we know you're saying it correctly if you're not in front of us or if we're working with somebody else at the moment? Well, then you would simply write the number in something called word form. What is word form? Word form is words for the way that you read the number. It's words for what we read. When I'm going to read a number or write it in word form, I move from left to right and start with the first period or the first grouping. So here it is. I know that the period's by my commas. My first grouping is 6-2 before I hit the comma. Well, when I look at that underlined 6-2, I know that that's the number 62. But I also see that there's a comma. And when I get to a comma, I have to say the name of the period. What is the name of the period? Well, remember, we're going to have that memorized. We're going to memorize our names of the periods from the ones to the left. So I'm going to put an initial underneath each period to remind myself the names of the periods. All the way on the right side, I have the ones period, then the thousands period, then the millions period. So this number right here, 62, will be read as 62 million. And for word form, I'll simply write that in words, 62 million. Notice as I'm writing it, I'm going to write 62. I put a dash between the 60 and the 2. Every number from 21 through 99, every two-digit number that has two words gets a dash between the two words. So from 21 to 99, every two-word, two-digit number gets a dash. 62 is two words, so it's 60-2. Once again, that's the millions column, and the comma tells me to say the name of the column. That is 62 million. Just like in standard form and word form, we need to draw in that comma. It's very important. Okay, now we're going to look at the next period. The next three digits are 780. If I saw that on a paper, I would say 780. What's the name of the period? Thousands. So it's 780,000. 780,000. Comma. I get to the next period, three digits are 543. How do I read 543? 543. There is no comma, so I don't say the name of that period. 540-3. Put that dash in. So how do I read this number? 62,780,543. Let's go through that together one more time. 62, comma tells me I have to say the period million. 780, comma tells me say the period thousand. 543. No comma, so I don't say the period. 62,780,543. So now we get to the example number 1 in our lesson. Example number 1 will be similar, not exactly the same, but similar to problem number 1 on your worksheet. So you can refer back to this example when you're trying to solve problem number 1. The digits and some things may be slightly different, but it will be the similar type of problem. Number 1 says read it and write it in word form. So how am I going to tackle this problem? Well, I see that it's a very large number, so I'm going to label the names of my periods from right to left. I know my first period is the ones, I'll put an O. Next is thousands, I'll put a T. Millions, an M, and billions, a B. So now I can work from beginning to end or from left to right. I'll take a look at that first period, and the number in there is 43. I read that as 43, so that will be 43 billion. 43 for the number. billion for the comma, which reminds me to say the name of the period. So that's 43 billion, and put my comma. I move to the next grouping, 240. That's the number 240. So I'll go ahead and write down 240. Comma tells me to say the name of the period, which is millions. So it's 240 million, and put that comma in. My next three digits are 108. I read that number as 108. 108. Comma tells me to say the name of the period. That's the thousands, so it's 108,000. Put my comma in. The next three digits are 092. I read that number 92. There's no comma, so I don't say a period. 90-2. So how do I read this number? Let's take a look and see. 43,240,108,092. Sounds like a big, bad, confusing number, but when you break it up period by period, it's actually pretty simple. Now it's time to stop and complete number 1 on your worksheet. You can go back to this example as often as you like. Stop it as you go, section by section, to follow it for help. If you're watching this example number 2, you should have already completed problem number 1 on your worksheet. If not, please stop and complete problem number 1 before continuing with this video. Okay, problem number 2, again, read the number and write it in word form. So let's tackle this. Large number, lots of periods, so I'm going to go ahead and label my periods. Ones, thousands, millions, billions. I'll take a look at my billions period first, and I see 30. I know that number is 30, so I am going to write 30. I get to a comma, it tells me to say the name of the period. That period is billion, so it will be 30 billion, comma. I move to the next period, and it's 071, which I know I read that number as 71, so I will write 71, comma tells me to say the name of the period, which is millions, so it's 71 million, comma. Move to the next three digits, which is 865. I read that as 865, so I will write 865. The name of that period is thousands, so I will write 1,000, comma. I get to the last three digits, that's 322. I know I read that as 322. There's no comma, so I don't say the name of the period. So this number in front of me is 30,071,865,322. Now please stop the video and do problem number 2 on your worksheet. You can go back to this example as often as you like. Stop it as you go to help you with problem number 2. So if you're getting ready to start number 3, you should have completed numbers 1 and 2 on your worksheet. If not, please go back and complete them before you start number 3. Number 3 is going to be a little bit different. The directions say, listen as I say the number, write it in word form, then write it in standard form. A hint for this is as I say the full number and the period, I would press stop on the recording, write down your number and your period, press play, listen to me say the next number within the next period. At the end of that period, stop, write it down, so on and so forth. So I would do this period by period. Once you have it in word form, you can go ahead and put it into standard form. Okay, so here we go. Here is the number. 20,789,000,000 23,297. See if you can solve that one right now. So again, I would go back to my recording and listen to what it says. First thing I hear is 20 billion. So I would stop and write that down. 20 billion. I know that billion is the name of a period, so I put a comma after it. Press play again, and I hear 789 million. So I'll write that down. 789 million. End of the period, put a comma. Go back to my recording. 23,000. So I will write down 23,000. Thousands are the name of a period, so I put a comma. Go back to my recording. 297. So I'll write down 297. As a double check for myself, I'll backtrack, I'll listen to my entire recording of the number, and as I'm saying it, what you hear me saying should be what you wrote down. So let's take a look and see. 20 billion. 789 million. 23,297. Perfect. I wrote what I said, so I'm good for my word form. Now let's go ahead and write that in standard form. Again, I'm going to write it in standard form, period by period. So 20 billion, 20, 20, comma for my billion, 789 million, well I know 789 is 789, comma for my million, 23,000, 23 is 23, comma for my thousand. Oops, that doesn't look right. There should be 3 digits in every period, so something's wrong here. Well, let me go back and look at my actual problem that says 23,000. There's a 23. What should I do to this number to make it 23,000? Oh, I know. If I put a 0 in front of it, 0, 2, 3 is still 23. Gives me the 3 digits I need in the period, and that will still be 23,000. Okay, I'm going to continue moving on, and then I get to 297. 297 looks like this. So there is a very important note for this problem. And here's my note. Only the largest period can have less than 3 digits. The largest period will be all the way on the left. So this one right here, that's my largest period, which is billions. That's the only one that can have less than 3 digits. Every other period must have 3 digits. So if I have a number that doesn't normally have 3 digits, I can use place value zeros when needed. And that's what I did right over here. I needed to add that place value 0 for 23,000. So I made it 023,000. Okay, so you're going to use this example. You can go back, listen to it, stop at the middle, etc., whatever you need to complete problem number 3 on your worksheet. Listen now as I read the number for problem number 3. Again, you can go back and listen to it period by period to help you write it in word form first. Here's the number that you'll be writing in both word form and standard form for problem number 3 on your lesson 1A worksheet. 7 billion 105 million 562,000 2. Be careful, there are definitely some place value zeros you'll have to add in there. Good luck. So as a review for this lesson, chapter 1, lesson 1A, We learned the names of the periods, 1,000, million, billion. We learned if you know the names of the ones period, you can figure out the names of the other periods as long as you know the periods. So it went 1, 10, 100. The next period was 1,000, so 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. The next period was million, so million, 10 million, 100 million. The last period was billion, or the last period we talked about, I should say. So it's billion, 10 billion, 100 billion. And we also learned how to properly read a number by breaking it apart period by period. This number was 742,987,654,321. Finally, we also learned in our last problem that the column all the way to the left, or the period all the way to the left, can have less than 3 digits, which is the largest period, but every other period must have 3 digits, so add place value zeros when necessary. Good luck with this.